Hey guys, Ash from Irvin Gaming, and today I'm going to be painting up this Panzershrek team for Finland and going over a tutorial on how to paint Finnish soldiers. So hope you enjoy. Now, it was actually quite difficult to figure out how I'm supposed to be painting on camera. I don't exactly have a lot of desk space to set up the tripod, so look, if you're someone who knows how to do professional paint tutorials, please comment below and I'd love to hear some tips on how I can improve it. But what I'm going to be doing today is painting the Finns. So you can see, dropped him straight away. Here's a Finnish soldier from Gaddis Gaming. And this is kind of we're just going for a tabletop standard, nothing too intricate. This is kind of the standard we're going for. I got a couple of Warlord miniatures here as well. So you can see I got some artillery crew. I got the big 10.5 centimeter howitzer itself. Yeah, so that's kind of the standard of painting we're going for. And because it's the only unit in my army that I haven't actually started on yet, we're going to be painting this Panzershrek team. Now the Finns grabbed a bunch of Panzershreks from Germany during the war and used them. And so this team here, we're going to be painting in a continuation war uniform, which is suitable for 1943 or 1944. I believe the Finns changed their uniform in late 42. So, first thing we're going to do to start off is we want to give the figure a little bit of a grey base. I'm dropping everything today. A little bit of a grey base on the uniform, and for that I'm going to use contrast Basilicum grey. And for the paintbrush, because it's just a rough brush, I'm just using this old crappy one, nothing too special. Let's get into it.
On kauniina muistona Karjala maa, mutta vieläkä soimessa soinnatta, kun soittaja sormissa kuulotsaa, Säkkijärven polka. Se polka taas mennätä mielen tuo ja se on.
Okay, the contrast paint is done. We've covered the main areas that are later going to be painted in this nice bright grey. But contrast paints take a while to dry, so while we wait on them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the trousers and the boots. Now, I'm going to start with the trousers on the uniform, and for those trousers, I'm going to be using Vallejo 70.394 dark grey. Now, because I'm only painting to a tabletop standard, not a display standard, you'll actually notice I've not done any shading or highlighting on the trousers. I just leave them in that dark grey. It's really hard to tell the difference between them and the boots as it is, and if I put some shading and highlighting, it's going to make it even, well, if I put the highlighting, it might help, but shading is going to make it even more difficult, and I'm not a fan of highlighting. So, let's get some of this grey on their trousers.
Tuo kaivuta rintalla, ei soittaja haittarin soittaa suo, Säkkijärven polka. Nuoren ja vanhan se tanssii vie, ei siellä polkalla vertaalia, se tanssana vaikka mieruntia, Säkkijärven polka. Siinä on lippuvaslaineten, siinä on huojuma onkeien, Karjala soi kaikki.
Alright, pants are done. Time to move on to the boots, and for that I'm using Vallejo Game Color 72.051. It's just called black. Doesn't like have a special trademark name, it's just black. So yeah, cool. I'm gonna do the boots again. I'm using the Artificer small from Citadel. Okay, so we've done the boots, we've done the trousers. Now it's time to actually do the main part of the jackets, which we've put the, what's this one called? Basilicum grey from Citadel's contrast underneath. And so we are going to be using Vallejo model color Sky Grey 70.989. This is the one that's recommended by Warlord for the Finnish uniforms, so I'm tempted to say it's the historically accurate one, but I'm also not an expert on Finland, so yeah, let's paint it.
jäi toki sentään polka. Kun rakkaat rannat jäähettaan, niin vieläsi kulkia loppunsa. Kun kuntala soittaja kaihoissa, Säkkijärven polka. Se polka.
Okay, so tunics are done. You can see that I've avoided areas that are deep, like this part here, where I want to retain the darker color from the Basilicum grey. So areas like here as well. If I bring the model around to this side, you can see, especially I'm really happy with the back of this guy. So what we're going to do now, though, is you'll notice there's these big straps and there's bags that I've left on the characters. There they are. Like we got this bag here. So we're going to start painting those bags. Now these bags, they could have been any kind of leather, depending on the theatre, where they came from, or, you know, whatnot. I'm going with 72.061 khaki Vallejo game colour, and the reason I've picked that one is that it just seems to be the most common colour for bread bags and stuff like this. So that's the colour we're going to be using for our bread bags.
Vain mutta sellainen, että tiellesi johtavi muistoja, kun sointona Karjala kaunoisen Säkkijärven polka. Nuoren ja vanhan se tanssee vie, ei siellä polkalla vertaalia, se kansana vaikka mieruntia, Säkkijärven polka.
Okay, so now we've painted up the bread bags, like this one over here, and the one that's on this side of this guy, the straps holding them, and also the ammunition bag, which I figured would also just be in this kind of same material the bread bags were made out of. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to paint up the belts and the water bottles. Now, the belts were definitely in a brown leather, and the water bottles I've painted in the same colour in absence of actually being able to find a historical colour they were, just to help differentiate them from the bread bags that they're often connected to. So I'm using Hull Red 70.958 because it kind of gives that reddy brown colour that leather is, and it will actually come out a lot darker than what the bottle looks like. So let's paint the belts and the water bottles.
Siinä on lipputas lainetten, siinä on huojata oikein, Karjala sai kaikki tietää sen, Säkkijärven polka.
So we're going to paint the helmets, and for those helmets we're going to be painting them in that nice Finnish grey-green colour. Now there's actually two Vallejo grey-greens out with different numbers. This one is 70886. I don't know why they have two colours with the same name. My friend bought the other one, and I don't remember its code, but it was the wrong one. Yeah, so that's this one. Let's get into the helmets.
Tule tottone kansane tanssaaga polkarin herkässä helkättää. Voi hevosurko ja hammassa porkuka siilainen ihmisen suuri pepää. Tule tottone kansane tanssaaga.
Now, I ended up actually painting the Panzershrek ammo the same colour as the helmets. I wasn't actually able to find any sources on what colour Finnish Panzershrek ammunition was. I'd have thought it would have been in the same yellow that German Panzershrek ammo was in. But a few historical photos I found showed it in grey. A couple of museum photos showed it in green. So I've just gone with the green-grey. So that way I'm in the same kind of ballpark. But we'll be painting the Panzershrek itself. We're going to try for the camouflage. The classic Finnish camouflage. German camo beige would probably actually be the best colour to use. Unfortunately, I don't have that colour, so I'm going to be using model colour 874 Tan Earth.
Meillä on riemuja sovinansa, Säkkijärvi se meiltään pois, mutta jäi toki sentään polka, kun rakkaat rannat jää.
Now, from pictures I found online, the Finnish camouflage is actually quite bright, and I'm going to go with perhaps even slightly brighter colours, just so it's very obvious that this is a camouflage bright colour. In real life, of course, camouflage might be dull and close to each other, but on the tabletop it looks better to make it quite obvious what it is. So I'm using two colours for this. I'm going to be using game colour Beastly Brown for the browns, and model colour Uniform Green for the greens. So, let's go.
Niin vieläsi kuppia loppunsa, kun kuntala soittaja kaihoissa, Säkkijärven polka. Se polka on vain mutta sellainen, että vieläsi johtavi muistoja, on sointona Karjala kaunoissa, Säkkijärven polka. kuinka järven jää.
Let's move on to the skin. Now, normally I'd use something like a tanned flesh, but our Finns live up in the Arctic Circle. So they're not exactly getting tan. So I'm going to be using basic skin tone from Model Color 815. Yeah, it's a much whiter color than most skin colors. So let's give it a go.
On taakse jäänyttä elämää. On siellä nyt lossit ja sassit ja puomit ja passit joo. Korsussa kaminaa, siellä pelataan nakkia raminaa. On meillä
You probably also noticed while watching my hyperlapses just how clumsy I am. So yeah, fun fact, I'm incredibly clumsy and have really shaky hands. But I can still paint to a tabletop standard, so don't let that get your confidence down. Don't let it get in the way of wanting to field a fully painted army. The joys you get of playing with a fully painted army is worth the struggles, to be honest. So, there's the Panzershrek team as it is now. Next up, we got some washers. I'm going to start off with our washers for the equipment and for the Shrek itself, rather than the face and whatnot, which I'll leave till last. So we're going to use some Army Painter Quick Shade, soft tone, for the bread bags, for the Panzershrek, for the helmets. Let's go.
ja maksit ja petromaksit joo. On täällä tallattu, on maata vallattu, on täällä
Okay, so we've done the wash now with the soft tone, and now it's time for our next wash, which will be the flesh wash. For this, I use a Citadel wash, which I've actually rebottled. The reason is Citadel washes stain the paint a lot more than Army Painter washes do, I find. And so, whilst I never do pin washes, because I'm not very good at them, I just do all-over washes, and I find if I'd used Agrax Earthshade instead of soft tone from Army Painter, that'd be a lot more brown. And I want that with the flesh, but I don't want it with everything else. So, let's apply this now. Okay, the washes on the model are now done. There's 2 steps left to go. Well, 3 steps actually. 3 steps left to go. So we're going to paint those helmet straps. We're going to paint the rim and the base, and we're going to give the models a varnish. 4 steps if you include basing. So, let's get on to doing the base, because I've just put all this wash on and I want to give it time to dry before I do the helmet straps. Let's go. For the sides of the base, I'm using cold grey. The next step now is I'm using flat brown for the helmet straps. Also, I'm also not going to film myself painting the helmet straps, as I need to hold the model really close to my eyes to do that, and I can't actually film it, sorry. Okay, I've done the helmet straps. While I was doing them, I was looking at the Shrek, and I'm not 100% happy with it. Its camouflage also doesn't really match the other heavy ordnance I've done, where I've done grey, which at the time I thought was historical. Found out later it's not, and it should actually be a more beigey colour. But I'm actually going to switch the beige colours on the Panzerfaust. I am going to go slightly more grey. But for this, I'm going to use heavy Warmgrey from game Extra Opaque by Vallejo.
Huimaa, ei Juno päätä huimaa. Pum pum pum, patterit paukkuu ja korhorot haukkuu juu.
There we are. The Finnish Panzershrek team's now basically finished. Pun intended. Yeah, it's basically finished now, with the exception of, obviously, I want to try and get the varnish on, but I need to wait for things to dry before I can put a varnish on. And then, obviously, once I've done the varnish, it is time to base. So here you go. Finished Finland. Paint a little Finnish flag.
Läskielotinaa ja peuranpa paistia ihanaa. On römpsässä käristetty, kiristetty, vattahan varistettu juu. Ryssillä heiniä,
syö lashatta tallista seiniä. Kun muuta ei niille ole antaa, on suolissa santaa juo.